and I envisaged that we were going to extend the president's term to a third term, on the understanding that come 2030, His Excellency will give way to one of his vice presidents. That was the premise upon which I made that statement. Now, fast forward, I'm happy that Honorable Ziyambi, the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, and the Attorney General's Office have been more innovative. They realize that 2 years is under 3 years or more, and it does not constitute a term.
Patrick Chinamasa mugore ra 2024 pakupendera musangano weZANU-PF annual conference vakaudza madelegates aiva pamusangano uyu nenyika yose kuti zvaisakodzera kuti vaEmmerson Mnangagwa vaextend term yavo pasina referendum. Vakataura nyaya yekuti paitodiwa mareferendum maviri kuti nyaya ye2030 inge ichibudirira. Asi vaChinamasa mugore ra 2025 vakazonzwika vava kutsigira 2030 iyi zvisinei nekutaura kwavo kwavakanga vaita pakutanga, uye vakambenge vataura nyaya yekuti hapadiwi vakutaura kuti hapadiwi referendum zvisinei nekuti mugore ra 2024 vakanga vataura nyaya yekuti panodiwa referendum. Ndivo mashoko panapa avari kuzama kuda kuedza kutsanangura mushure meinterview yavakaita neZFM Stereo.
Honorable Patrick Chinamasa, thank you very much for finding time and talking to us here at ZFM Stereo and allowing us in your space.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to clarify the provisions of Constitutional Amendment number 3 bill.
Perfect. Honorable, just to give a bit of a background, you are not just another voice in this debate, you are central to his foundation. We know that in 2024, as Secretary for Legal Affairs, you were the first to publicly outline the legal pathway for constitutional changes following your party's conference resolution. You stated unequivocally that altering presidential tenure would require 2 separate constitutional amendments, each subjected to a referendum. Fast forward to today, Constitutional Amendment number 3 is now moving towards Parliament after nationwide consultation, with the government maintaining that no referendum is required. At the same time, influential institutions such as the Zimbabwe Bishops' Conference are warning that proposed changes would shift power away from citizens and weaken democratic safeguards. So this is not just a legal discussion, it's a test of constitutional consistency, democratic legitimacy, and ultimately where power resides in Zimbabwe. Honorable, Zimbabwe adopted its constitution in 2013 after a national referendum with clear electoral cycles and safeguards. What specific constitutional deficiency does Amendment number 3 seek to correct today?
Yes, I think you need to break it down. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. We should have broken it down into specific questions. But let me start by clarifying that under Section 95, subsection 2B of the Constitution, it sets out the duration of the president's term of office to 5 years. And it further says that the 5 years must be coterminous with the life of Parliament. So that is the first point, that the duration of the president's term of office is 5 years. Then also Section 91, subsection 2, sets out the term limit provision. It sets out the term limit provision, and basically it limits the president's term of office to 2 terms. And it goes further to define what a term is, what the duration of a term is, which is 3 years or more. So anything that is less than 3 years is not a term. I think that is the fundamental difference. Where I came from in 2024, when I spoke at the SANPF Parliamentary Annual People's Conference, I said, and I envisaged that we were going to extend the president's term to a third term on the understanding that come 2030, His Excellency will give way to one of his vice presidents. That was the premise upon which I made that statement. Now, fast forward, I'm happy that Honorable Ziyambi, the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, and the Attorney General's Office have been more innovative. They realize that 2 years is under 3 years or more, and it does not constitute a term. So it was very clear to them, and I agree with them entirely, that we did not need to go through a referendum because it's not an extension of another third term. It's not a third term. It's just an extension by 2 years, and it's not a third term. So for that reason, they were more resourceful, more innovative, and the path they chose, that is the route, the constitutional route that they chose, is legally possible, legally permissible, and does not require a referendum. My premise required a referendum because I had envisaged an extension of 5 years, subject to the understanding that the president would give way to one of his vice presidents come 2030. But that is not the route the Ministry of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs chose. They chose a least expensive and a legally, constitutionally permissible route.
Honorable,
as to the question of whether it takes power from the people, it's not taking any power to the people, from the people. No. As you know, we fought for one man, one vote. The one man, one vote is exercised when we choose our representatives into parliament. And that is not being affected, that is not being changed, it remains so. We choose our representatives. And what we now have, if this amendment goes through, which it will, we will have what we call indirect election of president. In other words, parliamentary election of the president. And in this, we are no different from other countries. The United States, which is touted to be the most democratic, does not have a one man, one vote when electing their president. We are in this way in similar situation with Botswana, South Africa, Angola, Germany, India, so it's not correct that we are denying the people their right to vote. The people will continue to vote, one man, one vote, to choose their representatives who will go into parliament. Besides, where have you ever found a country where every decision goes to a referendum? Every decision is the population participates. They always participate indirectly through their representatives. That is the norm everywhere, in every country. Even if you consider the United Kingdom, it's the same, and it has never been considered any less democratic. The leader of the majority party becomes the prime minister. In our case, in the UK, the prime minister is the effective administrator, political administrator in the UK. In our case, it will be the president. And when we go to elections, political parties contest, and they are led by presidents. In other words, the leaders of their respective parties are called, almost invariably, they are called presidents. When the president of a majority party wins, naturally, the representatives in parliament choose him as their leader. And the leader of each respective political party is determined at a congress. In our case, we have congress every 5 years. We decide who our ZANU-PF leader is. And in the case that we choose a president, when we have the majority in parliament, we naturally, those majority will naturally choose the leader who was leading them in the campaign. So I just wanted to clarify the misunderstanding that is happening, that, you know, I said, yes, I said it, but it was premised, like I explaining, on the basis that we are going to have a third term extension for President E.D. Mnangagwa. And if that had been the route, it would have required an amendment to section 328, subsection 7, to remove the disability which is on President E.D. Mnangagwa to serve a third term. But currently, under the current constitutional provisions, we are not talking of a third term. We are talking of essentially a minimum of 2 years, which is below a term is defined in subsection 91 point subsection 2.
Honorable, thank you very much for that detailed response. We'll get to more of that as we continue the conversation. When I ask you here, I'm asking representing the layman, the public sentiment, and one would ask, why is the already existing framework inadequate?
You know, a constitution is a living document. It must suit the circumstances of the time. When we enact this amendment, future generations may find something completely different. So I want you to understand that a constitution serves the interests of its people. It does not serve its own interests. It serves the interests of its own people. Right now, for the reasons that I'm completely in agreement with, first, there is the lengthening of the life cycle of parliament and the life cycle, the term of office of the president from 5 to 7 years, both for the president and also for parliament. You know, that gives us room, long time, to develop, to mobilize resources and channel them towards development issues, and not to channel them towards contestation for power after every year, and contestation for power, which in our current situation, because we are still an immature democracy, always when the opposition loses, they always make unfounded allegations of rigging, and you go through another 2 years, those contestations are in court, and no amount of effort is put to the real work of development. Now, with the extension from 5 to 7 years, it means we are giving whoever wins a term of office for 7 years, he will have enough time to initiate and complete whatever he starts. You know, development is about continuity. If you have 2 years, 3 years, it's not enough to do long-term development, which is necessary for the development of the country. The country needs a sound foundation in road infrastructure, schools, clinics. You need to have a sound policy on reindustrialization of our country. All those things cannot be implemented overnight. They need a longer time frame. And it is for this reason that I think this amendment, especially lengthening the period, is a very good proposition. It reduces the opportunities for quarreling, which in our case always come after every 5 years. and are very costly, not only to the political parties involved, but very costly in terms of development to the country. It costs a lot. Just imagine, I understand that the 2023 harmonized elections cost the government something nearly 200 million, I beg your pardon, nearly 200 million United States dollars. And we are not talking about what ZANU-PF, I know the figure, but I won't mention it. I'm not talking about what we spend as a political party. I don't know what the opposition spent as a political party. Okay, in the case of the opposition, I'm aware, of course, that they are funded wholly from outside. So it doesn't matter to them how often they go to elections and how often they bring up incidents for quarreling, because it's all funded from outside to destabilize us, to effect regime change, to exacerbate the illegal sanctions that Zimbabwe currently still suffers under. So I am saying, basically, Mr. Masamfu, development requires a long period of implementation, formulation and implementation. But implementation is the necessity if the country is to lay a proper foundation for development.